The showdown between the Sun and the Fever turned into a complete circus. 6 technical fouls, 3 ejections, and 2 flagrants, all in one wild night. But in the middle of that chaos came one explosive moment that had the internet throwing popcorn and picking sides. Marina Mabrey took a blatant cheap shot at Caitlin Clark, shoving her to the ground out of nowhere, and somehow wasn't tossed. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham got booted without hesitation, and fans were quick to slam the glaring double standard. Then, after all the dust settled, the league sneakily decided to reclassify Mabrey's foul as a flagrant 2. No press release, no dramatic announcement, just a quiet update tucked into the league site. So now the big question is, how did the refs miss it in real time? And why did it take an avalanche of outrage for the league to react? Even more importantly, will Mabrey face a suspension like commentators heavily hinted she should during the broadcast? So, there are 4 players fined in that game. 4 players fined in that game, but the referees, the scariest part about all this, is that the referees came out with their report. They came out with a report and said, the contact made by Mabrey did not rise the level of rejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant 2 penalty, and it was given as a technical foul, not even flagrant, by the way. We'll get into exactly how and why the WNBA overruled its own officiating crew, and whether that fix actually helped, or just made things worse. But before we get there, let's break down the shove that ignited the firestorm. Let's call it what it was. A full-speed, blindside hit. Caitlin Clark didn't even see it coming. She was just playing the game, head turned, and then, bam! Mabrey launched her to the floor. It wasn't just another hard foul. It felt personal. The crowd erupted instantly, and so did the commentators. Everyone expected a flagrant 2, maybe even a fast-track ejection. But no, Mabrey walked away with a basic technical, and the game carried on like nothing happened. The broadcasters, stunned. The players, furious. Fans, absolutely losing it. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Social media blew up with people asking the same thing. How is she still in the game? What are the refs even looking at? It wasn't just Clark fans either. It was neutral observers, former players, analysts, everyone pointing out how the officials were losing grip on the game. Things only got more frustrating when you looked at the rest of the calls. Sophie Cunningham was tossed on the spot for a hard play that didn't come close to what Mabrey did. At this angle you can see just how far JC Sheldon is away from the ball. The ball's here. She's hitting Caitlin Clark in the face here. If you guys look at my cursor, I'm sorry I can't make this bigger. My cursor. She hits Caitlin Clark here. The ball's here. The ball is 3 feet away from Caitlin Clark's face. And she just targets the face. She targets the face. I don't know if there's any other way to describe it. This is clearly, she just lunged at her face. She went nowhere near the ball. She absolutely, positively, 0 doubts about it, lunges at Caitlin Clark's face. The inconsistencies were impossible to ignore. Sophie got the boot instantly, while Mabrey stuck around after what was clearly a more reckless and dangerous foul. The whole thing screamed uneven enforcement of the rules. I don't see how you can say that any other way. She literally lunged at her face, and then Caitlin's there, walking away, and she belly bumps her. By the way, Caitlin with the shove. Caitlin does not move JC Sheldon. If you look at this angle, you can see Caitlin Clark does not move JC Sheldon. They're like Caitlin shoved Sheldon. Caitlin literally, JC Sheldon still moving forwards. So JC Sheldon is the one who initiates the contact, and then Chaser and Marina Mabrey comes from nowhere. People kept piling on, asking, are the refs just spinning a wheel before each whistle? Because if the same standards were applied across the board, there's no way Mabrey should have been allowed to keep playing. But the inconsistencies didn't end at the final buzzer. Nope, that's when the WNBA's damage control kicked in. That's right, they came out later and said, actually we've upgraded it to a flagrant 2. Which, let's be real, is basically them saying, oops, our refs blew it. Had they made that call live during the game, Mabrey would have been ejected, no discussion needed. Fans saw it as an admission that the officiating crew dropped the ball, and not just slightly. They whiffed badly. People are calling for her Sophie Cunningham's objection from the league. People are commenting on her Marina Mabrey stuff. The league claimed that Mabrey's shove met the definition of excessive and unnecessary force. Okay, cool, but Why wasn't that obvious in the moment? The refs had a front row seat, no blind spots. Anyone watching with one eye closed could tell it was over the line. Which raises a bigger issue. Are we dealing with just one bad call? Or is the WNBA dealing with a full-blown officiating crisis? And it wasn't just that moment. Let's not forget, Caitlin Clark herself got hit with a technical for reacting after someone clawed her in the eye. Sophie Cunningham got fined and flagged for a play that didn't look half as vicious as Mowbray's. Every whistle felt like it came from a different rulebook. If Mowbray had been tossed when she should have been, the game would have had a very different tone. Instead, we got this patchwork fix long after the damage was done. Now, everyone's wondering the same thing. How are players and fans supposed to trust what's happening on the floor when the rules seem to shift minute to minute? The divide between what officials do live and what the league does after review is only growing wider. And the kicker? The refs and league can't even seem to agree on what's worthy of a flagrant. That's not just a bad look, it's a crisis of credibility. So let's cut to the chase. Who actually bears responsibility for this mess? The refs in the heat of the moment, or the league that swooped in only after the uproar? All eyes instantly shifted to referee Ashley Gloss, who, after the final buzzer, explained that Marina Mabrey's shove didn't meet the bar for a flagrant 2 or an ejection. That's why Mabrey walked away with just a technical foul and stayed in the game. Gloss was firm. Live. It didn't hit the threshold. The contact made by Mabrey did not rise to the level of an ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant foul penalty 2. But less than 24 hours later, the WNBA quietly overruled its own official crew, bumping the penalty up to a flagrant 2. That flip-flop speaks volumes. It's not merely a correction, it's a public contradiction. And now the echoing question resonates. How does a play go from not worthy of the boot to ejection-level violence in just a few hours? Instantly, social media erupted. Clips circulated with captions like, "What do these refs even see?" Fans and analysts were scrambling to reconcile the split in judgment. It wasn't just Gloss's crew under the microscope, it was the entire league. Are the WNBA doing what it claims, or are they cooking decisions in the aftermath of public backlash? Are we seeing a system that corrects itself or one that chases sensationalism? The game itself was already a powder keg. 6 technicals, 3 ejections, and a tornado of hard fouls. Yet the peculiar thing was the technical flag on Caitlin Clark. She was flagged for unsportsmanlike behavior after instinctually reacting to an eye poke and a dead ball bump from J.C. Sheldon. How does that even compare to a deliberate blindside shove? Then there's Sophie Cunningham's ejection. A perfectly timed, hard foul flagged live and confirmed with an additional fine afterward. Meanwhile, Mabrey's more blatant transgression was downgraded, temporarily, during the game, only for the league to quietly bump it later. That level of inconsistency is what fuels the fire. How can one player be tossed for a standard hard foul while another gets to keep playing after a play that felt much more violent? The result? A widening gap in trust between fans, coaches, players, and now, officials. The variance from one call to the next, especially inside a single game, raises alarming doubts about who's really running the show. At the end of the day, as long as bad referees are allowed to do whatever the hell they want to do, as long as bad referees can get away with every single thing they want and can get away with stuff like this, nothing will ever change. What kind of pressure are refs under when they're making split-second calls in front of tens of thousands in arena and hundreds of thousands watching at home? Gloss says she believed Mabrey's shove didn't scream flagrant, but watching it back, it was textbook. The game's enormous stakes, Commissioner's Cup implications, Clark's rising stardom, and an already loaded slate of technicals shouldn't excuse a misstep this glaring. Referee accountability isn't just a buzzword. It's the foundation of a fair, competitive environment. And let's not ignore the elephant in the court. Trust. If untimely calls are tolerated live, only to be massively upgraded later, what do fans, players, and coaches even believe in anymore? How do you explain to teams that react to a play in real time when the rules seem to shift after the fact? Not only does that shake faith in officiating, but it sends the message that accountability is optional, reactive, and contingent on social media outrage. Then there's the psychological toll on players like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Caitlin reacts in the moment, natural human response to being poked in the eye and gets flagged, while Mabry's dangerous shove goes unpunished until later. It undermines the entire fabric of competition. Is the league saying it's acceptable to punch a star in their prime as long as they get points off by the evening? Because that's exactly the dangerous precedent being set. But Marina Mabrey commented on TikTok about the whole situation, and this is what she said. Every time they comment, I make dollars. And what about Marina Mabrey herself? Did she shrink under the spotlight? Not at all. She leaned into it. In a post-game TikTok that went viral, she cracks, every time they comment, I make dollars. No remorse, no shy deflection. This is attitude meeting self-awareness, and she's using controversy as branding. She's not backing down, she's redirecting. It's bold, maybe reckless, but it's transparent. Fans either love it or loathe it, but they can't deny its results. Attention, notoriety, and yes, sordid streaming hits. This isn't an outlier play. It's part of a consistent pattern. Mabrey's reputation in the league is built on aggressive, physical defense, sometimes far past the boundary of clean play. Fans in arenas now boo when she even touches the ball, and sometimes Sophia Cunningham, who sparks controversies of her own. What's shifted now isn't just anger at individual plays. It's a broader rebellion against gray area officiating that arrives post facto rather than in real time. In fact, arena tension dogs every trip down the floor when Mabrey or JC Sheldon steps up near Clark. The noise goes up, and the refs face instantaneous scrutiny. Either they make a defining call in the moment, or risk being panned afterwards. And once again, the black and gold enforcement is helpless to preempt the chaos. Now comes the bigger question. When a superstar like Caitlin Clark and her guardian Sophie are at risk mid-game, but the league only intervenes after cameras flash and timelines explode, what does it say about the WNBA's confidence in its officials? When controversial fouls multiply and post-game fixes feel more like damage control, we don't just lose calls, we lose legitimacy. The league needs to draw a line, literally and figuratively. If the live officiating doesn't enforce it, the video review should immediately back the right call, in real time, not after the fact. If they can find and upgrade calls later, they should be able to toughen enforcement when it matters, in real time, to protect player safety, competitive integrity, and Clark's remarkable ascent. Marina Mabrey to a flagrant 2, which honestly she should have just been ejected from the game. This is what happened last season with Kennedy Carter when her cheap shot on Caitlin wasn't addressed in the moment. I think they're trying to address that now. So the flagrant 2 has been issued. Sophie Cunningham has been issued another fine on top of her flagrant 2. But is it too little too late? This situation reminds me of circuit breaker rules in other sports. Step over the line and you're out instantly. Delay the enforcement and the penalty becomes meaningless. But when enforcement is sideways, reactive, and inconsistent, it turns the entire system upside down. Fans, sponsors, rookies, everyone wonders what or who is really protected by the rules. And as the dust settles from this lead shove incident, we still haven't gotten real answers. Gloss said it didn't qualify. The WNBA said otherwise after escalating outrage. Clark and Sophie now bear the weight of their own retribution mid-game. But what about officiating clarity? The league doesn't appear to have a ready answer, and that's the problem. We need consistent standards, immediate accountability, and clarity from the WNBA office. Yesterday, not tomorrow. If not, expect more fights, more post-buzzer justifications, more tension. Because social media outrage isn't a rule book, it's a reaction. And after a while, even reactions run dry.